Let's start with a question. What happens when a small European nation suddenly seizes a semiconductor company that China partly owns? Well, you get chaos. Markets panic, governments scramble, and an entire continent suddenly realizes just how fragile the world's chip supply really is. And that's exactly what's happening right now. The tension between China and the Netherlands over a Dutch chipmaker named Nexperia is no longer just a local dispute. It's become a flashpoint in the global chip war. A single decision in Amsterdam has now rippled through the European Union, the global auto industry, and even Washington's corridors of power. Because chips, like those tiny bits of silicon, aren't just tech parts anymore. They're geopolitical weapons. And the world is waking up to that reality fast. Before we dive deeper, if you find stories like this fascinating, the real power games shaping our global economy, give this video a quick like and share it with someone who follows world affairs. It helps more people see these stories, and it really supports this channel. Alright, back to the story. It all started when the Dutch government made a stunning move. It seized control of Nexperia, a local semiconductor company, and restricted its chip production from being exported to China. To many, this was just another headline in the EU's growing alignment with US chip policies. But in Beijing, it was a red line crossed. Almost overnight, China's state media and the Commerce Ministry launched a wave of criticism, accusing the Netherlands of acting unilaterally and warning that this kind of behavior could severely disrupt the global semiconductor supply chain. And they weren't exaggerating. You see, China has a card that Europe doesn't. Control over rare earth materials and a dominant position in legacy chip production. The older but essential chips used in cars, home appliances, and industrial machinery. Beijing's message was clear. If the Netherlands wants to play hardball, China can too. This isn't just about politics. It's about livelihoods, factory workers, car manufacturers, even ordinary consumers who depend on the supply of affordable electronics. And the Dutch government's decision? It's turning into a case study in how one policy can backfire globally. Inside Nexperia's headquarters, the atmosphere is tense. Executives don't know whether their China-based suppliers will keep sending them the chips they need to operate. Meanwhile, European automakers, already squeezed by supply shortages, are panicking. Some companies are even negotiating directly with China's Ministry of Commerce just to keep their assembly lines moving. It's a reminder that China holds a choke point in the chip industry that few nations can ignore. In 2023, China's share of the global legacy chip market was around 31%. By 2025, that number is expected to climb close to 40%. And by the end of the decade, possibly half of the world's legacy chips could be made in China. That means 1 out of every 2 cars, computers, or even household gadgets could soon depend on Chinese chips. This isn't just a Netherlands problem anymore. It's a full-blown EU-China crisis. The European Union is especially exposed. It depends heavily on imported chips for everything from medical devices to military systems. If the EU wanted to meet just 80% of its own chip demand, especially for chips sized 90 nanometers and above, it would have to triple its current capacity. That's a massive, costly, and time-consuming task. Now imagine trying to do that while China tightens its exports. No wonder analysts say the Nexperia seizure may discourage Chinese tech investments across Europe. If China sees Europe as politically unstable or hostile, why would it keep building factories there? So, European companies are now stuck between 2 painful options. Either pay much higher prices for non-Chinese chips, making their products less competitive, or move parts of their operations into China, where supply chains remain secure. It's a tough call, and it shows just how deep Europe's dependency runs. And here's where things get strategic. China doesn't actually need to export these chips. Its own domestic demand from giants like Huawei, BYD, and Xiaomi is big enough to consume nearly all local production. That gives Beijing an incredible amount of leverage. If this semiconductor war truly escalates, China could simply restrict exports and create a global chip squeeze overnight. It would be a powerful form of economic retaliation, one that doesn't involve sanctions or tariffs, just scarcity. And that scarcity would hit Europe first and hardest. Speaking of scarcity in politics, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Europe made the right move in seizing Nexperia? Or did the Netherlands just hand China another advantage in the global chip game? Drop your opinion below. I always enjoy reading what you think. Now, while Europe is dealing with its semiconductor headache, The United States is fighting its own battle, but at the other end of the tech spectrum. The US-China rivalry isn't about legacy chips, it's about the future, AI chips. Washington has been imposing export restrictions on advanced chips used in artificial intelligence and supercomputing, trying to slow down China's tech ambitions. But those same restrictions are creating some very awkward consequences for American companies. Take Nvidia, for example. It once had a 90% market share in China for high-end AI chips. Now, practically zero. China is no longer trying to smuggle in American chips. It's building its own. And fast. Some analysts say US chips are still 24 months ahead technologically, but if you look at the pace of China's progress, that gap is closing alarmingly fast. Huawei's latest Ascent chips already outperform some of the weaker Nvidia models still allowed for sale in China. That's not just catching up, that's leapfrogging. China's government has instructed its biggest companies, from Alibaba to Tencent, to invest massively in homegrown chip startups. The result? A wave of innovation and self-sufficiency that's transforming China's tech landscape in real time. Meanwhile, over in Washington, something interesting is happening. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent recently hinted that the US might reconsider allowing some high-end chip exports to China in the future, mainly because Nvidia is losing billions from being cut off. It's a sign that even America is starting to feel the cost of its own restrictions. And here's another twist. While all of this chip chaos unfolds, China is quietly playing a financial game of its own. The internationalization of the renminbi, or RMB, is accelerating faster than most people realize. By pushing more global trade to be settled in RMB instead of US dollars, China is trying to sanction-proof itself, making sure that no country, not even the US, can easily isolate it financially. And it's working. Almost half of China's cross-border trade is now settled in RMB, up from just a few years ago. The dollar's share has fallen below 46%, and that's creating ripple effects across the world economy. A stronger RMB means cheaper imports for China, and better earnings for those exporting to China. It's also quietly eroding the dollar's dominance, one trade deal at a time. That's not just an economic shift, it's a global power shift. At this point, we're witnessing something bigger than a chip war. This is a complete rewiring of the global economic order. The chip battles between the US, China, and the Netherlands are really just fronts in a much larger struggle over who controls the future of technology, trade, and money itself. The Netherlands now finds itself in a tough spot, caught between American pressure and Chinese retaliation. European industries are bracing for shortages and higher costs. And China? It's playing the long game, building resilience, strengthening its currency, and locking in control of critical technologies. If you look closely, this isn't just about chips. It's about power. And power is shifting eastward. We don't know yet how this will all play out. Will Europe back down and seek compromise? Will the US ease its restrictions to protect its corporations? Or will China double down on becoming completely self-sufficient? What's certain is that every decision from this point forward will shape not just the semiconductor industry, but the entire global economy for years to come. If you made it this far, thank you. These stories take time to unpack, but they're crucial to understanding how our world is changing. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so you never miss the next deep dive. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.